You know,
do you eat peas? Do you and your 5 children eat peas?
I'm wealthy. What? So are we saying wealth has to be material possessions, has to be financial, have to be assets and possessions? Or can wealth just be I have good friends and I have good family that love me and I'm peaceful and, you know, I'm okay?
Hey guys, this is Anesu, aka Nyati Shonga.
Hello, my name is Chido, aka Chizzy. Wagwan, Advocate Amanda here. Hi everyone, this is Kuda, aka Coates. Hi, and welcome to As Told by Us, the podcast. This is a weekly podcast where 4 professional millennials discuss living in Zimbabwe and trying to figure life out.
Someone once told us the grass is much greener on the other side.
But from where we're standing, our grass is green. Subscribe, like, share, comment down below.
Welcome everyone to another episode of As Told by Us. In today's episode, we'll be diving into the complex and impactful topic of generational curses, and in particular, the cycle of generational poverty. We'll also look at if and how this can be broken. I'm your host, Amanda, and joining me today, as always, are my incredible co-hosts, Chido.
Hey!
Kuda.
Hey!
Anesu.
Hello!
Who have dedicated their lives to fighting crime and the forces of evil! Fighting crime! And of course, we have our mysterious male voice.
Yo, what's up?
I feel like people now know who you are.
Yeah,
you're
outed somehow.
Okay, it's all good.
Just let us know in the comments if you think you know who the voice is. Okay, so to kick things off, we're gonna start with defining our terms. Generational wealth refers to assets, property, and financial resources passed down from one generation to the next, often providing a solid foundation for people to have future success. On the flip side, we have generational poverty, which involves a cycle where families remain in poverty for multiple generations, facing persistent economic challenges. So, what I read is that generational poverty only requires that families live in poverty for at least 2 generations. So if your parent was in poverty and you are in poverty, you guys have generational poverty. So I think most of our generation is in the zone of trying to break a cycle. I think you guys can place yourselves whether you're on the wealth cycle or on the poverty cycle, whichever it is. And then it also extends to more systemic things like, race, cycle, and just things that create poverty. What I actually thought about was how I feel colonialism might have sort of disturbed that concept for us a bit, because if you look at your ancestors, the way that they defined wealth might be different from what we see it as today, which has automatically put us mostly on a poverty on a poverty track. Because our riches don't count. They don't count anymore. Okay, so basically why they call it in economics is referred to as a cycle of poverty or the poverty trap, because it speaks to the self-reinforcing disadvantages that make it virtually impossible for individuals to break the cycle. And it occurs when poor people don't have the resources necessary to escape poverty. So these the resources are things like financial capital, education, or connections. And this is what makes the poor remain poor. So, maybe let's just get some thoughts while we're there. Yeah. Would you guys think that, like what I was talking about before, do you think we are all automatically on an automatic cycle of poverty, just considering your race and your locality?
Colonialism did really disrupt what our definition of wealth is. right? In the sense that back in the day, before colonialism, I think our wealth was really defined by like how many cows you had, how much land you possessed, that kind of thing, right? But now, even if your granddad has like 1,000 cows, if he doesn't have, I don't know, a Range Rover, you might be like, oh, he's not wealthy, you know? So just what we think is valuable, what we think is wealth now has been changed. And so now we're chasing wealth that was, I don't want to say never meant for us, but that wasn't what we considered wealth in the first place. So now we look at ourselves as if we're at a disadvantage, when if you're really being honest, you probably are not, right? But just because you define wealth differently makes it difficult. And then wealth can also be wealth of love and peace and happiness. It could be.
Do you eat love?
That's wealth. Other people have no peace. I have lots of money and I have no peace. You know,
Do you eat peace? Do you and your 5 children eat peace?
I'm wealthy. What? So are we saying wealth has to be material possessions, has to be financial, have to be assets and possessions? Or can wealth just be I have good friends and I have good family that love me and I'm peaceful and, you know, I'm okay?
I think that would be more short-term factors. But if we're talking about the kind of wealth that passes through generations, the more intangible versions of it would be things like your work ethic and, you know, just like, I don't know, a cultural type of thing. Because even...
connections.
Yeah, connections. Because even generational curses, it extends to things like greed in the family or alcoholism or, you know, drug abuse. It's just basically situations that are easy to pass down from generation to generation, and it becomes like a family thing. So now the interesting thing about generational poverty is that it actually is made up more of internal psychological things that actually helps it to perpetuate. And I found this to be quite dark because there's 3 things that are pointed out that show you that this exists. One is hopelessness. So this is just that experience of living without any hope or belief that life can get better. So you don't have the motivation or the energy that would be needed to break a cycle of poverty. So basically, you're living in a hopeless situation. And I think this really affects kids more because once you grow up in a situation where someone is like, you are not the type to be able to live in a certain way, and that belief becomes internalized, then you've got the first psychological factor. And then the second one is just having lack of money as a fundamental resource in the household, which creates a scarcity mindset. So then you become trapped in the poverty struggle. You can't even think of the future because you're so focused on surviving for the next few days. And so it kills your ability to dream a bit bigger. I saw a video recently where they were juxtaposing like American kids and Palestinian kids. And then they were asking them things like, oh, what if you could have one wish, what could you wish for? The American kids are like, oh, I'd wish for $1 billion. I'd wish for an iPhone. I'd wish for a Lamborghini, things like that. And then the Palestinian kids are like, I'd wish for meat. We haven't had meat for the whole year. Or water. Or I'd wish to get my dad back or things like that. So I think that scarcity mindset, it already limits your ability to think yourself out of poverty. You know, the 24-hour, we all have 24 hours a day type of mentality. And then the third one is that living in constant worry about money causes toxic stress. So that means when every day you're worried about money, it actually causes stress to the body because every day you're stressed out and worried about money. And so that can actually have like physiological effects. And it can shorten your lifespan and cause all sorts of other diseases because your body is literally stressed out. I think I've also heard that, like, you know, you can tell the difference between someone who has money and someone who doesn't because people who have money don't actually think about it. It's not like part of your day-to-day thoughts. But then if you don't have money, you're always like obsessing about it, and it's just about it. When am I gonna get money? How am I gonna get money? So that's our groundwork, I think, done. So I'm going to open up the floor. I know it's a bit of a heavy topic because you really start to think about your life. And you realize that, damn, I might be trapped in a cycle. So, thoughts, guys?
My first thought when you were saying those three factors, like hopelessness and scarcity mindset and toxic stress, it just, for me, all that was ringing, the alarm bells were like zim, zim, zim. I don't know. It's like everybody in Zim is, or not everybody, barring the Wignells and the like, but most people in Zim are already kind of like living in a hopeless kind of, oh my gosh, like, where do I go from here? I don't have a job. How am I going to feed my family? There's a sense of hopelessness in the situation that we're living in. And then a lot of us, I don't know, I think we've even spoken about this scarcity mindset. I think we were talking about, I don't remember which episode it was, but we were talking about scarcity mindset. And that's a thing that is present in a lot of young people's minds right now. It's just like, Andina, I need to find the next best thing to find what I'm looking for, whatever it is, if it's money or whatever. And then again, like just this toxic stress, like as you were saying, it's just, I feel like most people in Zim are living in perpetual stress of like, when am I going to get the next paycheck? When am I going to do this? Like, it's always just stress. Oh, I've got hospital bills to pay. Like,
and I mean, it's even the small things like, am I going to have electricity today? To be able to do X, Y, Z? Am I going to have water today? Am I going to be able to take a bath without having to do like 5 things to just make that happen? And your mind is literally occupied by things like that. And it's a mess.
It's a mess. When you were speaking about the psychological things, I was just like, this is literally me. Because there's no day where I don't wake up and think, oh, okay, I need to go to my job because I need the money to do this, this, and that, and all of that. So it's kind of, it's eye-opening when you actually think the situation you're in is hindering you from, like, your dreams. And it also makes you limit the things you're able to do. Like before, when I came back from school, I don't think I had that mindset. I don't think I was thinking, what are the bills this month? What do I need to cover? Can I even make that much money for this month and all of that? When I came back, I think I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to get back to work and all of these nice things that people tell you about being of a certain age and having a certain amount of education. But then when I got home, it's just been, it's been, it's been sad, really. And then when you said the thing about how it's generational and it's only like, 2 generations up, I really started thinking about the things that my parents have also instilled in me that also fuel the hopelessness and the scarcity mindset and all of that. Because the cycle can't be ended when we're all living in poverty. Like my parents, I don't think they don't think about bills and all of that. And that's also now reflected on me as their kid. Because it just becomes, okay, I now need to help with that. Stress. So, it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. And when you're in that cycle for so long, you then just don't have energy to try and like break that mold. You're just like thinking of the next meal, like what you said, that scarcity. You're just thinking, okay, when next is my paycheck coming and all of that.
And before you know it, you're 50 and you're still in that cycle.
And you've now given it to your kids.
Because it's also strange, I think, for me that Zimbabweans don't retire. It's like the weirdest thing where people's parents are really well into their 70s and
they're still working.
They're still working, you know, just because we don't have a structure to be able to even build enough money, not even for the next generation, but just for us ourselves to retire. Our pensions don't mean anything, you know, and if you're lucky to have children, so I'm thinking now of like a grandma who's in her 80s, right? And for some reason we also live very long, right? So just for a grandma, if she's lucky, she will have kids that are able to support her. If she's not and her kids are also in poverty, they're just trying to figure their own lives out and their own children and their, you know. So Gogo becomes sort of the end of the list of bills and things that I need to take care of. So it's really so unfortunate, I think, that, you know, as a country, just structurally, we're just not in that place to be able to break generational poverty. And I think I've looked at it also from very different angles. So if you think about it, I have so my granddad, right, had 3 properties, right? Massive, I mean, good properties, good enough properties, I would say. But Bra had 7 kids. Right. So when you divide whatever it is that would have been the inheritance of the children by 7, it becomes very, minuscule, you know, per child.
Did they all go to school?
Yes.
It sounds like you're in generational wealth, bro.
Even have properties. What?
So you know what I mean? And can I tell you, they are still there. I mean, listen, they are not. They're not bad. They're not privileged. And you know what? Actually, I won't even front. Like, I do think that like my granddad did well for himself in the time, because like his properties are Kumusha properties, are also high density area properties. It's not like, we're not talking suburban type kind of properties, right? Which is also I'm saying that even when you then divide it by the number of kids, right? They're 7. But I think in his time, he did well, right? To be able to support his kids. And I also want to say, like, to be fair, I think my granddad could have, if he wanted to. And I don't know, this might sound strange, but like he could have, if he wanted to, he could have moved to the burbs. Right? But I think financially it would have put a strain for him to be able to then do the things that he managed to do for his kids had he not. So he chose to live in a high density area to keep his costs low so that he can do more for his kids, so that all the kids can go to school. And he also supported, also another thing being that I think of all of his siblings, was the only one that was working. So he had to educate his siblings' children. So it wasn't just his own kids he was taking care of. He black taxed, also had to take care of his siblings' children as well. So then it became, even he couldn't even enjoy his own hard work because there was so much responsibility that was sitting on him. That like, I also feel like even now today, even our generation has a lot of black tax, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of bills that we are unable to shake.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, Kuda, because I think we are either second or third generation, if we're going to start from a post-colonial era, which unfortunately is about as far as most of us can go. But if I think about it, my dad would have been the first to sort of break out in terms of, say, having an education and being able to own property and educate his children. So now we as the children are the ones who determine whether we're going into a wealth or stepping back into poverty. Because even if you look around at his siblings, it's a hit and miss. I know that's a strange way to put it, but basically not everyone was able to come out of a cycle. And then like what Kuda was saying, it then puts a burden on him to say, you don't really enjoy your wealth in quotation marks because you've only managed to do so little. And then that little that's there in the broader extended family is now what everybody wants. So now it's up to this generation of the kids of his siblings and us to be able to do something for the next. So I think I want to just go back to what I had said about its wealth being about financial capital, education, and or connections. So it's not really just about how much money goes down, but I think sometimes just having a dad who's important or a granddad who did something like this in the community gives you a better chance to say, oh, I'm starting a business, can you trust in this? Or I'm starting a business, and then they'll know that her granddad has those 3 properties, so that already acts as security. Some people, you may have the biggest, brilliantest business idea, but if you don't have security, no one is investing in your dream.
And social capital is so important.
Social capital is so important. So yeah, I see MMVs itching out here.
I feel like in Africa, our context of generational wealth is really black tax. Like that's how we can relate to it. Right?
Yeah.
As soon as you graduate, you're supposed to do this and then take care of your siblings, your rents, your grandparents and stuff like that. And it's a thief of so many people's dreams. So many people have so many aspirations, but then because of this, like, for lack of a better word, like, okay, I won't say burden, but like it's just a toll. It's a heavy toll that you have to like take on. That okay, I have to take care of these people, and if you don't have someone who is like granddad type situation, because in a similar situation, like Kuda was saying, my granddad was pretty much he kind of set up everything. Not like to the point that we're like all balling, but like it's like there's structures in place where like there is an allowance for someone to go like, hey, you know what, I'm going to be creative, right? And I actually understand that for a lot of people, they don't have that as an option. Like it's absolutely impossible. So my 2 cents would just be that it's definitely a heavy toll and it's a thief of dreams. And I don't know what the solution would be. I mean, you can go from the economic side, you can say government or mentalities, but it's like a whole lot. And it's something that we're dealing with on a daily basis. Funny thing, I was thinking about this the other day. If you're in town, right? Let's say someone steals something from a shop, right? Right? And some people are already, like, the way that person gets weaved, right? You can see that people are removing all the stress on this person. Like you can see that like people are actually just walking around with so much frustration and just waiting for an excuse to just like explode.
It's wild. Shout out to episode 9. I think we went really in depth with the whole black tax and living in an African household. So if you want to check that one out as well, just, do
what it does. Okay, so given that the cycle of poverty is attributed to these psychological things, do you guys think someone can think themselves out of poverty? Because even when I try to look for solutions, it's more like, fix your mindset, have a positive mindset, focus on affirmations, because really it's you guys laugh. But you said that's as Chido said, do you eat affirmations? But guys, think about it. It's that same thing where, like, have you ever experienced something where you like have an idea or just a demand to say, oh, we should have X, Y, Z. And then people look at you like, in Zim though, can we have this in Zim? And it takes that one person who's crazy enough to think, I can do this in Zim, to actually then do it, for people to then believe, oh, we can actually have this in Zim. So do you think it's how much would you attribute to our we're in Zim mentality? Do you really think, okay, you guys look like it's a no?
No, it's not a no. It's not a yes. Exactly. It's not. But I think I'm gonna go with it depends. And it depends. So here's where I'm gonna go. Right. I think it depends on, say, if we're talking about career paths or occupation, whatever, right? Out of the 5 of us, 4 of us work in structure, right? So me, Chido, and Yesu, Amanda work in structure, right? I can think well and I can work hard. My salary does not change unless my boss decides. Right? Then
You'll be going home with your cashews.
Me and my cashews will be the same until my boss says the Law Society tariff will be the same until Law Society decides. No matter how well I think, no matter how aspirational I am, you know. But if we worked in a situation where, so the 1 out of 5 of us who's the creative of the group, right? Where he is able to garner his own market, make his own money, you know. I think in a not just creative space, but maybe entrepreneurial space, there's more leeway to think yourself out of it, right? Obviously, if you have good networks, if you have good social capital, but even then, like, if you market yourself well, use Instagram properly, you know, how many photographers do you know that used to just take pictures with your phones and now have entire studios, now have actually, like, are making real
and they're
money.
charging $200.
And they're charging, and they'll still get, right? You have Kevin who can charge you lunch for events, and he's able to do that because he's been able to visualize for himself a market, a niche. He executes it well, so people are willing to pay for him to decorate your Christmas tree because it's just good, and he's making money from it. So I think it's just a depends thing. For me, there are structures that allow for it, and there are structures that just don't.
I want to agree with you, Kuda, because so I was having a conversation with my dad some time ago when I first got into like law, and he was like, and at first I didn't want to believe it until I started working. He's like, you know what, for as long as you're selling your time, there is a ceiling to what you can make or what you can earn. But if you create something, right, then your possibilities are endless. So me as a lawyer, I'm selling my time. There's a Law Society tariff that says if you work for this amount of hours, then you charge this amount. There's always going to be a ceiling because I only have 24 hours in a day. Whereas the creative or the entrepreneur has 24 hours.
And it's full 24
and it could be a full 24 hours, and he can create something within that time that will surpass what I earn within 24 hours. So that's how come I think that I agree with you, Kuda, to say that for us who work in a structured environment, I think it's difficult because we're always going to have a ceiling. Unless I do something on the side, I cannot wait for my salary to say I'm going to, in this day and age particularly, that I'm going to go and buy a stand in Greystone Park. Because that's not likely to happen.
I think it still also comes back to, you know, what you've been given to start off with. Because even on the law side, right, while mine is structured, I'd say I've entered into more of the entrepreneurial space in law. But then you find that, you know, it's still about how many advantages do you come in with. Because you'll have, like, say, second generation lawyers, right? When you're in law school, you're different from Chido, who's the first of her name to get a law degree. You are with people who have a senior partner who's already there. You know that there's mom or dad's law firm where you can literally go and take over if you want. And then it only becomes up to you to say, no, I want to start for myself. And even in the creative space, I would beg to differ, because I think that's even more difficult if you're not coming in with significant privilege already. because I know so many talented kids who are, I don't know, maybe you just get up to a certain level of education. But if you don't have the kind of family that can help you set up in terms of equipment and whatnot, that's it. That's the dream dead. Because I know people who incredibly talented, but then like you're recording with your cell phone. Where are you going to start to compete with these other privileged kids in Harare who basically, you know, had a bit of a struggle with their parents, but their parents can afford to be like, okay, fine, we'll give your thing a try. And then basically that means I'm pouring resources into your passion project and hoping this is going to come up to something. That's definitely a privileged thing. And so to ask someone in the creative space to be the one to emerge and be the beginning of generational wealth in Zimbabwe, I think it's just...
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I think I'm actually gonna jump in there. I feel like the creatives who actually do make a living out of their creativity actually create a structure.
Yeah.
Like you have to create a structure because I'll just speak from my experience. Like when I got into the creative space, I didn't have connections. I didn't have a supportive family. I didn't have a supportive family to like go like, yo, okay, we're gonna help you buy equipment. We're gonna help you do this. I had to do things like brick by brick. And there was an actual like 2-year stretch where it was the pits of the pits, you know, like bottom of the bottom level grind. Where there's like, what am I doing, you know? And at that point, it's very disheartening because you know you're talented. You know, like, you have the work ethic, but then it's like there's these invisible hands just, like, on you. Like, you cannot rise above it. And it's an extremely difficult situation to be in. And I have so many friends who I started this thing with who quit. They just stopped because it was just not sustainable. So the number one thing with creators is, like, sometimes because you're so focused on the art and the creating, you like, hey, I'm not going to think too much about the structure, you know. So it's actually, you have to take the onus on yourself to be like, fam, I need to eat. Because I was like under an unimaginable level of pressure because everyone in my family is like from structure. Like everyone is, I'm like the only like creative. So it's like, I had to create like a structure and go like, okay, how do I get paid? How do I eat? How do I take care of myself? How do I expand? How do I invest? You know, these things you de facto become actually like a business person and actually have to go on YouTube, talk to friends who are knowledgeable on the subject and stuff like that. And it's very difficult. I feel like with structure, at least, you know, like a paycheck is coming, you know. With creativity, you have good months, you have bad months. You know, you have, it's tricky. It's very volatile at times. But as you go, you find some semblance of structure. But it is, as Amal was saying, very difficult.
Yeah. So to answer your question, it would be a no.
So no, you can't do what you can't think yourself out.
I think from everything that we've spoken about, I feel like you need some sort of backing for you to at least start something. So just saying, I've got this amazing idea, I've got all these plans and whatnot. If your family isn't backing you financially, or if you don't have the right connections to get you to the funding, guys, I feel like in Zim it's a bit difficult. You could start, but then at some point you're going to need that generational wealth in quotes, those connections, that financial backing and all of that.
That education.
Someone needs to know some sekuru who can help you. So I don't know. I don't think you can think out of this one.
So something that I've been told by generations ahead of me is that our generation wants things quickly, right?
Microwave generation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We are a microwave generation. We want, so you start working today, you think you're going to buy your first Lamborghini by the end of the year. You think you're going to buy a house by whenever, right? I don't know how long it took your parents to buy their houses, but like, I feel, I don't know, like maybe it is possible eventually to affirm yourself out if you do it slowly. Like if you think I'm going to own my house at 70, then maybe.
So all this while you'll be
I
renting.
don't know. But like, I don't know. It's just, I've heard a lot from just the older generation to just say the reason why we are so frustrated is because we're thinking these things are going to happen.
That's coming from a point of privilege.
Exactly. And I think it's also the scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
Because if we look realistically, we're in 2024. Money is literally being made overnight these days. Like, I mean, there'll be like a boom, cryptocurrency. American 14-year-olds are billionaires. TikTok stars, they're billionaires overnight. And you want us, the 30-year-olds of Zimbabwe, to be waiting. 30.
Exactly.
We don't have
Wait for your time. Wait for your time.
We've also gone through so many like economic slumps. We've gone through COVID. We've gone through 2 economic slumps. I don't think the parents can compare their generation to ours. They, with their first jobs, they were buying cars. They were buying house. They had down payments on mortgages.
Sure,
Where are you finding a mortgage in Zimbabwe at your young age of 30 with your cash? So I feel like it's very unfair to compare like that. It's let's just be kind, guys. Life is hard.
Plus, also there's the aspect of exposure, right? Because of the internet, you actually see all these people who are making so much money so quick.
Yeah.
You've seen billionaires come up overnight. So why wouldn't we want that when it's possible?
Yeah.
Do you think then that's the downfall? So I'm thinking we've all lived out of Zim for a while. We've been in situations where electricity never went. You could drink water from the tap. You could go to the malls. Everything was really quick and at your fingertips. You would travel. There are houses everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, we've lived in economies that work, right? And then we came back here. Do you think that adds to our frustrations because you know what life could have been, but it's not?
For me personally, it does, because I think I'll just be looking at my classmates and I'm just like, oh,
It's humbling.
Both my husbands.
okay. Oh, second car? Oh, okay. And the second car is not like a
sports car,
It's a BMW. Mercedes.
I definitely think that exposure sometimes is our downfall. It's good to know, like it's good to want and to see these things, but then it's also like, so what am I doing?
But that's the thing, though. That's what's fueling this hopelessness.
Yeah.
Because then we all have dreams and we're entitled to pursue those dreams. Like, I wanted to be, in my own house by a certain age. But like, that was my dream. But I'm in this place and I'm in a hopeless situation right now where it's like, will I ever achieve what it is that I had dreamt of for my life?
Yeah.
To be honest, I think we are talking from a middle class perspective because already in this room we check at least half the boxes in terms of at least having gotten an education, having gotten that exposure that makes us know that it's possible. So you're not looking at yourself and thinking, there's no way I can come out of this. You're not actually thinking about what you're going to eat in the coming days or weeks. I think because if we take it a level down to poverty, like the poverty that people are facing in our country, there is that kind of a trap where it's like there's no way out because you're looking at your parents and they don't even have the level of education or exposure that we're even talking about here. To be on a podcast talking about, wealth as a concept, that's already a luxury. If we really think about it, we're here just philosophizing about wealth, whereas some people are like literally on the streets, like dirty streets. Like, I've seen places where was I going? To Ngomankurira. What's that area? Yeah, Dombosha. I remember just like looking outside and just thinking, like, imagine, because the people there, like especially the kids, you probably don't go to town. I don't know if they've ever really, what would they be going to do in the CBD. But then you're thinking like every single day, I wake up, this is where I go to school, these are the people I see every day, this is the environment I see every day.
That's my life.
That's your life. And so the kind of hopelessness or ability to dream that we're talking about is so different, because it's like literally a car, you've never seen a car driving to park at home. You've seen cars, but then that's a foreign thing, that's for other people. So now to ask someone like that to think themselves out of that situation without exposure, at least just the exposure, or just someone saying you can actually also do it.
And then here's some help to get there, because even if I think I want to, of course I also would like to have a car, but I need somebody else to reach out and say, let me help you, let me teach you how to drive, here's capital to do something,
Yeah, but it takes a little kid who then thinks to themselves, one day I'm going to drive a car. And then to then get to that person that Kuda's talking about. Because then it needs that kid to be like, how does this happen? Funny enough, I've been reading The Richest Man in Babylon, which is a similar concept to say, wealth is something that's accessible to everybody. Everyone has the same opportunity. But then there's a certain amount of knowledge that is maybe gate-kept, or that is not available to everybody in terms of how to actually obtain and maintain wealth. And half of generational wealth is just that. Just having grown up with a rich uncle puts you, 2 steps ahead of someone who's never had a conversation with a rich person. So, guys, let's have a little bit of hope.
The crazy thing is, the people who've never been to Harare.
You see.
And for me, it's mind blowing. Like someone will be like, yo, Joina City is so amazing. I'm like, Joina City. But like that's the experience. And it's so crazy how many people, how people look at me when they find out I'm like a full-time artist. It's like, what do you mean? What does that mean? Like, break it down for us. Like, are you are you serious? Like, it's Zim, And it's very sad that it's almost like there's an intentional, like people are gonna be kept down, like, just by the system. Like, it's almost like it's sifting out. Like, it's only like you get a Ronaldo or, like, all these, like, success stories, which are, like, almost like unicorn stories, where this kid grows up in the favelas and goes, like, I want to play soccer. And actually, he has the work ethic, pushes through, but he's like only one. Like, how many Ronaldos who could have been Ronaldos are like out there? It's very sad.
Interesting how you say there's people who've never been to Harare. My mom was telling me she was having a conversation with some lady who was like, I've never been to the airport. And I was just like, wow. Like, we take that for granted. You know how, like, during uni days, you were in and out of that place, like in and out every 6 months. And for somebody to say they've never been to the airport, not even to like
to accompany
somebody else who's going, but that they've just never been.
No, do you know what I'm thinking about?
That was wild to me.
I don't know how, like, I used to have so many like relatives when I was younger that used to come to my house, because my house is close to the airport, so they'll come sleep over at my house and then we'll take them to the airport. And there was this place where you could go watch. And like my mom would always be like, oh look, auntie's waving. And I'll be like, oh, I see her live. But I think even just that like made me feel like, oh, I want to be in that.
It makes you have that possibility to say, oh, I can also do this.
Also get on there.
But I know, like, my primary school used to have, I don't know what it's called now, something angels. Sure, I don't remember.
Road angels?
No, not road angels, but it was a thing, right? So my primary school was a government school, right? But initially when it began, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like, yes, it's a government school, but it wasn't like, like government school back in the day were white schools. Anyway, they were public schools, not government schools, right? And so they used to have these things where pilots would come and take us on planes. So we'd go onto planes and like sit in the cockpit, play with the buttons and like do a whole thing. And like the pilots would have a full day with like pilots and air hostesses and na. And then I thought I would be an air hostess, and then I realized I was too short. But I always thought it was like really cool.
It's good.
I always thought, that exposure was really good. And for it to be, and now I can't think, because now it's definitely a government school. It's no longer public school. They don't do that anymore, you know. And we used to have so many, because Kirsty Coventry used to go where I went for primary school. So she would come, and she would also come, and it would be like, oh, Olympics, Kirsty Coventry, and she would swim with us. And, you know, and I used to swim. I ended up swimming for Zim because of it, right? And so now I was just thinking, it's so sad though. And then now those things are just not as available as they used to be, and you'd think that since it was a government school, it would stay. They would keep doing that.
Now we have kids, Kumusha, whose teachers are on strike for long, and they go to school and take drugs.
Okay, so
the teachers or the kids? The kids. Because there's no teachers coming to school. What do you think they're doing? No, for real.
I heard someone say they actually pay extra just for the teacher to do their job.
Yes.
Added. I was like, what?
Dude, you know, so I have a niece who was grade 7 last year, right? And her teacher blatantly said, if you want your kids to pass, pay for extra lessons.
Yeah.
Either that or your kid is failing. And it didn't matter how smart your kid was. You know what I mean? Like, because I knew my kid didn't need extra lessons. She's smart girly, you know what I mean? But like, if a teacher's going to mark register for those that came to extra lessons and my kid's not on that, my kid will just be failed because I didn't pay the extra $20.
Hectic.
So I don't know. This generational wealth thing is very tricky.
Like, are we getting out of this or not?
Systemically,
that's my question now.
But you see, if you have teachers like that and you have things like that, how?
I think to me it's now this nature versus nurture debate, because even as we're talking about it, it keeps on getting more bleak. Because say you as a parent, right, you decide, okay, I'm focusing on the next generation, I'm focusing on my kid. You can't fix the whole country. You can't fix the whole environment. You need a combination of those two factors. Because, you know, as much as you can, you know, feed your child at home and give them all the support and positivity and reinforcement, if they're not going to school where they're also going to be go and be shown Kirsty Coventry and be shown all these other things, then it becomes hard. It becomes really hard.
Yeah. So is there hope? This is my question. Like, I want to know if
I think the only hope is like
leave Zimbabwe.
Yeah, just leave Zimbabwe.
Fix Zimbabwe.
Secure the bag externally, spend it internally. And I know this is controversial, but there's some people work remote. I'm sure we all know people work remote, and just because of economics. Or people like who are moving from America to Africa, where it's like because of the economy, if you are earning like USD or pounds or whatever it is, you can actually buy a house. Like if you make enough money.
Do you know the government taxes you for remote work?
Yeah,
even that is a problem.
Taxes is a whole other debate.
Even that is a problem. So you can't, even when you think, okay, let me make my money elsewhere. The government still says that's fine. But still, we can get our money. I don't know, Chiro. That is no.
Guys, so
we're just gonna die.
No.
You're going to leave.
No. As I said in the beginning, I think all of us here are at least on leg number 2.
Yeah.
Because you're educated, you have a bit of backing and resources. So it's you're the determiner of whether or not you're going to have generational wealth or generational poverty.
That's pressure.
So yeah, guys, this has been a very interesting conversation. Please jump into the debate. Let us know what you think. If you think we're talking crap, please do let us know. We love the haters as much as we love the lovers. So a big thank you to our guests and sharing their insights and experiences. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. Until next time, this is As Told by Us. If you learned anything from this episode, share the episode with your friend and join the conversation with us on all our socials. We're everywhere. Look for us. Don't forget to like the episode and look out for all our new episodes, which will be streaming on platforms every single Monday, unless we're tired. But most Mondays we are live.